All right, let's get right into it. We have all seen this happen, right? You're watching a match, and there's this blur of movement on the pitch. Sometimes it looks like a beautiful, coordinated attack, and other times it's just, well, a total mess. But what if I told you there's a hidden science that separates the good chaos from the bad?
I mean, this is the question that drives fans crazy. It's the difference between a goal and a turnover, between a fluid attack and just, frustrating confusion. What is this secret sauce that separates brilliant tactical movement from players just getting in each other's way?
Because get this, the very same action, one player swapping positions with another, can create a golden opportunity or complete chaos. It's a real knife's edge. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into the data and figure out exactly why that is. Okay, first things first, let's set a baseline here. This isn't really about if teams rotate positions. It turns out pretty much all of them do. The real story, the interesting part, is in the details. That's right. In a huge analysis of over 800 matches, we're talking Europe's top 5 leagues. Every single one of the 96 teams they studied used player rotations. Attackers dropping deep, wingers cutting inside. The movement is constant, everywhere.
And that right there is the key. While every team is doing it, the results they get are wildly different. This is where our investigation really begins.
So, what's the first big clue in all this? Well, it comes down to the difference between a planned, rehearsed move and something that's just made up on the spot. And lucky for us, there's a way to measure that.
It's called rotation type distribution, or just RTD. Now, don't worry about the fancy name. All this really does is measure how structured and rehearsed a team's movements are. A high RTD score, that means the team is running a set play, a pattern they've drilled again and again in training. A low score means it's mostly improvised.
And when you actually look at the data, the difference is just huge. I mean, look at this chart. You've got a team like Juventus way up at the top. Their rotations are like a choreographed dance. Then you've got your league average, and way, way down at the bottom, you have a team like Werder Bremen, where the movements are much more reactive and off the cuff. So what does that high RTD score actually look like on the field? Well, at a team like Juventus, one player's movement acts as a trigger. The midfielder knows to push up, the winger knows to cut in. It's like they're all speaking a shared tactical language. But at the other end of the scale, one player moves and everyone else is just left to react, which, as you can imagine, sometimes creates a bit of a mess. Okay, so a high RTD score tells us a team's movements are well rehearsed. But here's the million-dollar question, right? Does all that structure actually lead to better results? Does it actually work? Well, that's our second big clue. And for this, we have another key metric. This one's called the Rotation Quality Score, or RQS. And this metric, it cuts right to the chase. It asks a simple question. After a rotation, does the team become more dangerous or less dangerous? It actually measures the change in scoring threat right after the movement happens. And the results here are absolutely staggering. For teams like Liverpool and Brentford, their rotations are creating a massive advantage. They generate way more threat. But then you look at teams like Hamburg and Rennes, and their rotations are actually hurting them. They reduce their scoring threat. The movement is causing confusion, not creating opportunities. I mean, think about your favorite team for a second. Do their movements create openings or just chaos? Just think about that for a second. The exact same physical action, two players swapping places, can produce polar opposite results. The difference isn't the movement itself, it's the shared understanding of what that movement means to the other 9 players on the field. So this brings us to the solution. How do the very best teams turn what looks like chaotic movement into a deadly strategic weapon? Well, it's not magic. It's actually a simple, trainable formula for creating what we can call good chaos. It really just breaks down into 3 simple steps. First, you define the trigger. The movement isn't random. It happens only when a very specific condition is met on the field. Second, you define the movement itself. Who moves, where they go, the timing, everything. And third, and this is the most important part, you define the outcome. What does everyone else on the team do to take advantage of that first move? You have to train the whole sequence. Look, the goal here isn't to get rid of improvisation completely. It's to drill these core patterns so much that the correct response becomes second nature. It feels like instinct, but really, it's a deeply rehearsed reaction. Now, here comes the best part. You don't need any complex data or fancy software to see this for yourself. We're going to give you a super simple tool you can use to analyze any team's rotations right from your couch. So, the next time you're watching a game, how can you tell the difference between good chaos and bad chaos in real time? It's called the two-player rank change test, and it's really easy. The next time you see two or more players swap positions, just don't follow the ball. Instead, keep an eye on what happens over the next 2 or 3 possessions for that team. And you're looking for some very specific things. Ask yourself, did that rotation lead to a better scoring chance? Did it create a 2-on-1 somewhere on the pitch? Did it open up space for their best player? Or did it just cause confusion? Did a player get caught out of position, forcing the whole team to reset? So what's the magic number? Well, based on the source data, here's the benchmark. If you notice that about 7 out of every 10 rotations you spot lead to a clear, positive outcome, then you're watching a team that has mastered good chaos. Their RQS is almost definitely in the positive. If it's less than half, well, they're probably hurting themselves more than they're helping. So the next time you're watching a match and you see that flurry of movement, you'll know. You'll know it's not just random. You now have the blueprint. You know the best teams aren't just winging it. They're executing a 3-step formula: trigger, movement, and outcome that's been drilled into them until it's pure instinct. You'll see the unseen blueprint, that shared language that separates a beautiful symphony from just noise. The only question is, now that you know what to look for, will you ever be able to unsee it?